Hi, folks. Alok here. Talking a little bit about consumer-oriented web apps, applications, and things like that. How to think about these things. So there are a lot of ways to think about starting a business and a different business and what you're going to do and how it works. And a lot of it depends if you're doing something new, if you're consumer-oriented, if you're business-oriented, and things like that. So if you're doing something consumer-oriented, which I'll talk a little bit about today, one of the ways you may want to think about it is that a lot of times it really is like it's like a lottery. So you could build something and then it doesn't work, and then you may pivot it and change it, try to figure out how it works. And that can work really well if you're doing something that's like a marketplace. So, for instance, I believe about ClassPass that they started off with a great idea, actually, as a marketplace where you can book sessions at studios. You can book classes at studios, and then it didn't go anywhere. Apparently, I believe it didn't go anywhere. So then the founder there, I think, was a young woman who women are not supported very well by investors for God knows why. But this young woman, and I feel like she described it sort of poetically that it was like the crickets. There were so few people coming to her site at that point. So then she pivoted and she kind of, while she was talking to people, she was kind of like, well, people think that these studios are really expensive, which they are. And then the studios were saying, well, we really need to get more people using our studios because that's why we're so expensive, because we don't have enough people using our studios. And so she kind of put those two things together and came up with the idea of ClassPass, I believe, something like that, where it was a subscription where you could go to all of these studios with a fixed monthly price, and which is also a fantastic idea. And it's not obvious just looking at either idea that one would go nowhere, like be zero, and that the other one, or very close to zero, I think, and then the other one would be explosive, grow explosively and be gigantic. So with a lot of these things, you just got to try it. Another thing you've got to be careful for is I don't know where her first idea was going. So a lot of times, the most dangerous place to be is where you're not succeeding and you're not failing. So where maybe she had some traction and that, maybe she's some kind of break even, but it's not really growing. And then what do I do? And if she was somewhere like that and she kind of had the sense to think like, okay, well, we're gonna scrap this and go for something big. Well, the more power to her. But either way, whatever she's done is fantastic. But the point being that, beyond the point being that women entrepreneurs will achieve phenomenal things, the other point being that you just don't know where a great idea may or may not go. There are a number of great ideas that are tried and they fail until they're tried again and then they take off. And so that's also surprising. You kind of don't necessarily know when an idea is going to take off. And another thing is that you never quite know which one is going to take off. But as I've talked about before, winners pay out really big. So from the investing side of things, you want to find the winners and you want to be part of them. You don't want to worry too much about valuation. Right, 20 years ago, owning 100% of the number two Alta Vista for $50 million is worth a lot less than owning a piece of Google at $500 million or $1 billion or whatever insane valuation they would have commanded at the time 20 years ago, or seemingly insane valuation, because winners can win really, really big. And so when you're doing a consumer-oriented startup, and it depends what you're doing for the marketplace, you can kind of pivot because there's something there. If you're doing something around, let's say, user-generated content or some photo sharing app or something like that, well, it's very much kind of a hit or miss, kind of a lottery ticket kind of a thing. There must have been 100 or dozens of, actually dozens, if not hundreds of texting apps. Why exactly did WhatsApp kind of win? Who knows exactly? There were lots of there were lots of them out there, and then it would have been something I would not have been too inclined to get into because I would have just thought, well, Yahoo Messenger and MSN, all of these messengers and Skype and all these guys are gonna be on the mobile phone, and they've already got a big user base. So I think it would have been a little bit unexpected, and probably was unexpected to the WhatsApp guys themselves that they had the kind of success that they did. And you just never know till you try. Something else that's just really interesting about WhatsApp is the power of an idea. So texting is something that has been in my head for like over 20 years since it came out, and it was huge in Europe. And I thought, wow, it's going to get popular in the U.S. And sure enough, a few years later, it got popular in the U.S. And then I saw texting with ICQ and all of these things. So probably I should have just kept that one idea in mind. And when you see the opportunity in a new platform, you try it. But you never know because these random guys, WhatsApp may have created something that it just happened to catch on, and that's the thing that becomes big. You just never know with these things. So you have to kind of know what you're doing and what you're trying. And then the other thing is once you've got momentum and you're growing, you don't want to lose it. It's very, very hard to recreate that kind of magic. You know, you build something that's taking off on its own. You know, if you lose it and you try to do paid advertising or paid things, it's going to be very, very hard to get there, or extremely expensive. And similarly, you could build another 20, 30 thing, which a lot of founders have done, and they don't go anywhere. I mean, guys like Facebook and Google build new things all the time, and they don't go anywhere. Look at Facebook's clone of Snapchat and other things that, you know, they're Facebook, and these things have gone nowhere. Anyway, more thoughts coming soon. Later, folks.